I want to talk about something that I saw that was somewhat viral, and it comes out every single year that it does. But 247 Sports came out with their blue chip ratio, which normally I vastly agree with, that leads to ultimate success. But I have a theory. And I have somewhat of an ask, not really an ask, but just to say, LSU is in the top 8 in blue chip ratio for this upcoming season. If you don't know what blue chip ratio is, it's the most blue chip recruits that one team has. You know, like Ohio State has 90% blue chip recruits. LSU has 70%. Ironically, Alabama is number 2 with 88%, even though they had a big time portal departure there. But LSU's in the top 8. You know, it's ironic. I went and looked at this last year. Now, this could change. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing because, you know, look, sometimes, you know, different people have blue chip ratios of what they expect coming back. LSU was number 4 in blue chip ratio last year. And the season didn't go the way that you wanted it to. And I look at LSU this year and at the position groups that they have, which made me question the talent that, if we just look at it as a whole from recruiting services and the way that they rank and look at recruits in high school, you're in the top 8. Problem is, you face 3 teams that have a better blue chip ratio than you do. So on an industry paper, you face Oklahoma that has a better blue chip ratio than you. You face A&M that has a better blue chip ratio than you. Oh, and by the way, you face Alabama that's got one better than you. The interesting part here is A&M has been somebody that we've looked at over the years when we look at blue chip ratio and say, look, man, you got to add context to it because Jimbo Fisher was there. They got a lot of talent, but they suck. And they lose a lot. Oklahoma, to some extent, they do get some really good talent in there, but there have been times where they have not lived up to the expectations in the last couple of years that they think that they're at. And then obviously you know, what I want to make sure about all this is that I do have a theory, but the theory when it comes to blue chip ratio, I don't know how much it really matters because Michigan wasn't on that list last year in the top 10. They certainly weren't in the top 8. Certainly weren't in the top 8. But I can literally see Ohio State being one of the best teams in the country. And so I flip it on its head and say, well, you know what, man? It's not always wrong. Maybe you need to add context. Let's get to the bigger point here of what I want to mention. What the blue chip ratio coming out made me think of was just how much talent do you actually have and maybe some position groups that are lacking. We know them. We've talked about 2 of them, actually 3 of them, if we want to be completely concise. But man, it's something to be said that you're still considered from a talent aspect, from just a recruiting service, that guys, you should be a top 8 program in the country based off the way that you recruit. And if you're not that, then what has happened? Have there been guys that have been misses? Now, you know, Sage Ryan was a 5-star that has not panned out. Not to what 5 stars are expected to be. John Emery, ironically enough, is a part of that blue chip list. Will Campbell, technically, from a percentage standpoint, yeah, I could see that. And Emory Jones, you got to add context to it. I do think, because so many of us and so many people that cover this team, to some extent myself included, shit on this team from a talent aspect. The truth is, man, you do actually have a lot of talent that's scattered across. It just depends on, can you develop that talent and get it where it needs to be? You know, we talked about safeties last night. Look, man, Major Burns was your leading tackler last year. Horrible in coverage, yes. But, you know, do you look at him and ask how bad was scheme? I don't think the kid can cover. What I do know, did he miss some tackles in the open field against a receiver? Yes. Was he very efficient around the line of scrimmage? Also, yes. From a talent aspect, look, I get on recruiting services all the time about how they miss, and they do miss a lot. And I do think that there's give and take to and context to things about recruiting. Man, they miss a lot too. They do miss a lot. I mean, Malik Neighbors, they boosted him up last time when he in his recruiting process because he signed with LSU. The kid was a 3-star the entire way until he signed with LSU. Don't change him at the last minute because you look like a dummy. I do agree with him, though, that I can see the very big marker of where that you have talent. It can be hard to see sometimes because there are a lot of units like last year that struggled. Sean Womack's on this team. DJ Chester's on this team. Will Campbell, Emory Jones, Harold Perkins. From a blue chip ratio, like we said, Sage Ryan and John Emery. It's just what do you do with it that matters the most. All right. Let's get out of here. Let me make sure we have no super chats. We do not. Let me make sure that we don't have any questions. Kevin says, did Slosh not get along with the Aggie AD? Well, I don't know if it's that he didn't get along with him. I think it's that there's a new one. And there's always going to be tough things when there's a new AD. And he didn't come there with a new when that AD was in there. Trev Alberts. Cole Adams says, what was Michigan's blue chip ratio percentage last year? Cole, I didn't write it down. All I put was it was not in the top 10. I would be giving you a fake statistic. I don't know their percentage. Lance Aber says, more like Karma for the Aggies. Yeah, but Karma for what? What did they do? What did they do? I don't like them, but what did they do? Schlossnagel told A&M bend over and spell run. Sounds like from what we see from A&M fans, and he's not the only, he's not the one telling them that. He uses some of that verbiage. That's why he left TCU. That's what I hear, at least what I see, I should say. P. Scott with a $4.99 super chat says, Gabe, I would venture to say Gabe Rutherford, and Dom McKinley need to be huge freshman year ? Your thoughts? So thank you, P. Scott. Do I think that they need to be huge for you? Let's talk about that. Let's break that down very quickly. Yes, they do, because they have to be big based off of the necessity of you being bad at those positions. It's what's the likelihood? Very two talented guys, man. And could it happen? Is it impossible that they have big year ones? No, not at all. But the Emory Jones, Will Campbell scenario doesn't play out like that very often. It especially on the line of scrimmage. There's just not a lot of freshmen that can go into a freshman year game one type of scenario and give you the reps that they need to give you. Now, the season is more than just game one. You progress and all that stuff too. I get all of that. I think that Bo Davis is going, one thing we can't knock Bo Davis on is him being a good developer. You can't do that to him. And if he doesn't develop here and guys don't develop here, it might not be him, Bo Davis. It might be you. Right? It's probably you that's the problem. So do they need to be big? Yes. Am I gung ho? Am I oh man, they're going to do this? No, I'm not. I think it's way too much to always ask from a freshman. And like I told you with Will Campbell, I thought that he would struggle coming out of the gate a little bit more than he did. He proved me wrong. Does not mean that he did not have his freshman mistakes. He did have some, not a lot,